Well, Yippy-Ki-Ya Musey lovers, and welcome back. We are on part 11 of this creepy and surprising and fascinating story. There's a locked door in my new apartment. Kind of a haunted house, creature feature, and without a lot of babbling, let me tell you, Spooktober is part 3 is being done by Lady Raven. Hopefully by the time you hear this, I will have added her URL to the previous video. Okay, with any more babbling on, and I hope you enjoy it, and part 4 may be done by another creator, or it might be done by me. And in 5, 4, 3, 2... I see you found the place faster this time. Looks like you're making yourself at home. He smiled and gestured to the door. I didn't try talking to him. I knew I'd get no concrete answers, so I simply nodded and left the room. The apartment was exactly how I remembered it last night, looking like it had been abandoned for ages. I carefully proceeded down the hallway, still expecting the creaking lady to show up. My footsteps alarmingly echoed through the entire corridor as I swiveled my head left and right to make sure no one else was around. Soon I reached the stairs and pointed my beam at the top. I couldn't see anything, even with the flashlight. The beam should have illuminated the top easily, but it was like the light was just cut off at one point, which acted as an invisible wall. I heard something heavy being dragged across the ground on the floor above, and I instinctively pointed my flashlight to the ceiling. The dragging sounded as if someone was having a really hard time moving the object they were dragging. So they would yank it and stop before the next yank. This lasted for about a dozen yanks, moving all the way from one end of the ceiling to the other until it stopped completely. I held my breath in anticipation, but nothing happened. Then a very faint creaking noise came from somewhere in the distance. I couldn't tell where it came from though, so I shot around, scanning the place. No creaking ladies. I suddenly felt uneasy standing there, like a sitting duck. It felt as though eyes were on my back, but I couldn't confirm my suspicions. Unwillingly, I took a step towards the stairs, not taking my eyes off the darkness in front. Luckily, as I climbed each step, the darkness in front of me started dispersing, and my light penetrated more, revealing steps further in front of me. The long flight of stairs extended much longer than it should have, and it took me over a minute of straight climbing until I reached the top. The second floor was far worse than the first. The walls seemed to be covered with something strange, and as I illuminated a portion of the wall with my torch, I thought I saw the walls moving. I came a step closer to see what it was, and when I realized what it was, I gasped loudly. Maggots. Hundreds of thousands of them, covering every inch of every wall, slithering across each other. I pointed my beam up, and to my horror, they were on the ceiling as well. I turned around and bolted for the stairs, but almost ran into a wall full of maggots instead. Where the stairs had been just a moment ago was now a solid wall. I started panicking, but when I pointed my beam to the floor, I realized that it was clear of all maggots. Not a single one was on the floor, and instead, they amassed to the walls and ceilings in unison. I breathed a sigh of partial relief and hurriedly strode through the hallway, making sure to keep my head down and swat away any paranoid feeling I had of something creeping on my skin. Then a loud creaking noise resounded right in front of me. I widened my eyes and shot the beam around. When I looked to my left, I saw the door to 204 was opening. Vincent's room. When the door was fully open and the creaking stopped, I heard voices from inside. "We can't do that," a female voice was heard. I went inside the apartment and expected to find some more dilapidated walls and maggots. Instead, I was baffled at the way it was clean and normal looking. No worms, no worn out walls and scratches. It was a solid, beautiful apartment worth living in that didn't belong in this place anyhow. And yet, here it was. "We have no choice, Marjorie." Vincent's voice was clearly heard from inside. I followed it and saw him, and who I guessed was his wife, sitting at the kitchen table. They both seemed like they hadn't slept in days. "The other tenant could become suspicious," Marjorie said with a trembling voice. It looked as if she was suppressing a sob. "We have no other choice, Marjorie. We'll keep it a secret, and we'll ask the others to keep quiet about it too." "But what if they don't, Vincent?" "I'll make sure that they do. No one will know about this. I promise." Vincent put his hand on Marjorie's, and they froze like that. "It's time to go, Nathan," I heard a voice from behind me. I turned around to see Martin standing there, as calm as ever. "Who the hell are you?" I suddenly felt a surge of anger. "What do you want from me?" He calmly shook his head before saying, "You still don't understand. It's not about what you want. You still need time to understand. No, you listen." Like the night before, he pushed me and I fell to the ground, waking up in my own apartment. "Damn it!" I cursed loudly. I glanced at my watch and realized it was 4:20 a.m. Guess I'll have to try again tomorrow, I thought. I slumped into bed and fell asleep almost instantly. No voices or presence this time. When I awoke, it was 11 a.m. I felt groggy, but I didn't want to sleep anymore, so I forced myself to get up. I made breakfast and took a shower. simply trying to pass more time before visiting Vincent again. As I ate, I remembered the conversation he had with Marjorie at the kitchen table. He was hiding something, and I was adamant about finding out what it was. Around noon, I went downstairs, only to have my hopes drop the second I saw his door from the distance. Seeing that the posted note was still up. Oh, damn it. Vincent, I muttered to myself before shaking my head and turning back. As I returned to my own floor, I put the keys in the door and I heard a voice behind me. Hey! I turned around. It was my neighbor from 307. She was standing at her door, unsteadily holding the frame with one hand. Do you want to come in for a cup of coffee? She asked with a neutral facial expression. I stared dumbly, unable to form a sentence. Well, don't make me repeat myself, she said more sternly this time. Yes, I'd love some coffee, I managed to blurt out. She smiled and led me inside her apartment, which was decorated in a noticeably less fashionable way than my own. It still looked like a cozy place, though, despite being a little cluttered. Make yourself at home. I'll be right back, she said, and went to make coffee. I sat listening to the sounds coming from the kitchen. I was on pins and needles, like waiting for a job interviewer to show up. I think we all know that feeling, that anxiety. But a few moments later, she came back with coffee and sat on the sofa opposite me. We haven't properly met yet, she said. I'm Dolores. Nathan, I smiled. She took a sip of her coffee while I awkwardly scanned her apartment. There was a picture of a man in a uniform standing on one of her shelves, right next to a tiny cross. That there? That was my husband, Harold. She glanced at the picture. He died 12 years ago. Cancer. I'm so sorry. Don't be. We had time to say our goodbyes. That's what I'm grateful to the Lord for. It's hard sometimes without him, but my kids help me out. I awkwardly took a sip of my own coffee. I didn't know what to say. A moment of silence fell upon the room before Dolores continued. Planning on staying here long, Nathan? She asked. You mean in your home or in the apartment? I asked as we both chuckled. Room 304. Very strange place. Very inhospitable. What do you mean? I stared at my cup. Oh, don't play dumb. You know exactly what I mean. I'm sure you've noticed some things by now, and I can assure you, none of it is normal. I put my coffee down and leaned on my knees, staring at Dolores. What do you know about my apartment, Dolores? I asked. She exhaled deeply and stared at the coffee table for a moment. I knew what she was about to say would be important, but also unpleasant for her. She said, there are things on this earth that simply cannot be explained by logic. Things which are so foul that they are beyond any scientific explanation. I moved here to this place after it was built. Vincent from 204, his daughter Susan, was the first person to rent the apartment. What? Vincent's daughter lived in 304? I didn't even try to hide my shock. She lived there for only 2 months before disappearing. Poor Vincent. He hasn't been the same since. I never asked him about it, but now I'm certain it was the apartment. It had something to do with Susan's disappearance. Dolores looked at her husband's picture. Her facial expression turned to one of painful reminiscence. You've seen something there, haven't you? And with that, my friends, I will see you again very soon. Happy Spooktober. Do not forget to go to Lady Ravens to hear Spooktober number 3. And number 4, I may do, or there might be somebody else doing it. So I will let you know when that's out. All right, guys. Hope you enjoy. Come back soon. We're here to entertain you. Okay. Can't wait to see ya. Enjoy. Bye.